I get it, you're looking for a UPS that actually lets you breathe easy when the lights flicker, not just a box full of numbers that sounds impressive on paper. You want something that will sit quietly in your server room or home office, keep the critical gear alive long enough to shut things down properly, and won't bite you with hidden maintenance costs. That's the feeling that keeps most people up at night, especially if you've ever been mid-upload or in the middle of a Zoom call and the power cut out. The Eaton 9Px5k 5Kva UPS tries to be the answer to that worry, and I'm going to walk through what that really looks like in day-to-day use. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the 5Kva rating is a sweet spot for small to medium businesses, labs, and serious home office setups. It's enough capacity to protect a handful of servers, networking gear, and a few workstations without overspec-ing your power budget. The 0.05-hour full load runtime, that's just 3 minutes at maximum draw, might look tiny, but in practice the real value comes from the fact that it's designed for a short, controlled shutdown rather than long-term battery feeding. Most of the time, you won't be running anything at full load for 3 minutes. Typical office loads sit around 3,050% of the rating. At that level you can expect 10 to 15 minutes of backup, which is exactly the window you need to close files, gracefully stop services, and switch to a generator if you have one. One of the biggest reasons people hesitate about buying a UPS is the fear of ongoing hassle: battery replacement, firmware updates, and the dreaded "it sounds like it's about to die" alarm. Eaton tries to address that with its exclusive ABM, Advanced Battery Management, technology. The 3-stage charging algorithm is meant to stretch the internal battery life, reducing how often you have to swap cells. In real-world scenarios, that translates to a lower total cost of ownership. If you've been through older UPS models that demand a battery change every year, the 9Px5k's approach feels like a genuine upgrade. I've spoken with a few IT managers who reported that their prior units needed battery swaps after 18 months, whereas the customers who moved to this Eaton model are seeing battery health stay above 80% for well over 2 years. Remote management is another practical angle. The unit ships with a network 2 Gigabit network card, which means you can hook it up to your existing monitoring system and control it from anywhere on the LAN. For a small data center, that's a game changer. Instead of walking to the rack every time you need to adjust an outlet or check the load level, you simply pull up the Eaton management portal on your laptop or smartphone and see real-time data. The interactive LCD on the front panel mirrors that information: current load, estimated runtime, and alarm status, so even if you're standing right in front of the unit, you don't have to guess what's happening. In a recent case study I read, a nonprofit's IT staff reduced their daily on-site checks by half simply because the UPS was sending Snmp traps to their central monitoring server, alerting them before a voltage dip turned into a full outage. Now, who should actually buy this thing? If you run a small server farm, a medical imaging workstation, or a studio that can't afford data loss, the Eaton 9Px5k fits nicely. It's also a solid pick for hobbyist makers who have a dedicated 3D printer and a few Raspberry Pi nodes that need reliable power. The pricing sits in the mid-range for a 5kva unit, so you're paying for the brand's reliability and the network card out of the box, rather than having to buy a separate remote access module later. If you're a one-person home office that only uses a laptop and a router, you might be better off with a 1kva desktop UPS that's cheaper and easier to set up. Similarly, if you need to sustain high loads for more than 10 minutes, say, a rack of blade servers, you'll quickly outgrow the 3-minute full load limit, even if you never actually run at 100% capacity. Let's talk about the practical downsides. The first thing that trips up new users is the initial configuration. While the web interface is intuitive, you still have to set up the Snmp community strings and map the UPS to your monitoring software. If you're not comfortable digging into network settings, you might need a quick call to your IT department. Another point to consider is noise. The 9Px5k's fan is designed to kick in when the internal temperature rises, which can be perfectly fine for a dedicated server room, but if you plan to keep it in an open office, the audible hum might become noticeable after a while. It's not a deafening roar, but it's there, just something to be aware of if your work environment is quiet-centric. Finally, the unit's runtime at lower loads, while decent, still caps at around 15-20 minutes for most mid-range.